morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a look at what is going on with the prices of Wild Force and Cyber Judge. Oh, they're crashing. I know we talk a lot about the fact that, these prices, they start really high and they come down over time, and this is something that we are used to, absolutely. But oh my word, the prices are crashing for this set way faster than I was expecting. I was expecting a pretty fast crash, right? But oh my word, the prices over in Japan for this set are crashing very, very hard. And let's start off with the big one. Let's start off with Bianca's Devotion. What we've got here is the special illustration rare. Now, when I showed it to you the other day, it was a 25,000 yen card. That's quite expensive. It's been a few days and it's now a 17,000 yen card. Now, don't worry about doing the maths. I've done it for you. I'm nice like that. That is a drop in a couple of days of 32%. Not quite a third, but near as darn it, honestly. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It's down by 32% in the space of just a few days. And don't get me wrong, right? 17,000 yen is not exactly some kind of super cheap card. 17,000 yen, you're still talking about a $116 card right now. But compared to what it was in the space of a few days, this is fantastic. It's more proof, if anyone needed, that even with Japanese cards, you should not be buying them day one or the first weekend. Give it a few days, let them come down in price, deal with it later, because this is just absolutely redonk. Now, there are a couple of the special illustration rares which have plummeted kind of hilariously. One of them is Walking Wake, and look, you know I love this, right? Walking Wake. You've got the ridiculous artwork here from T0. It's a phenomenal card. It's a stunning card. When I showed it to you the other day, Walking Wake was the third highest card. It was 9,500 yen. It's now down to 4,800 yen. That is a 49% drop. If it was 4,750, that would be exactly half. It would literally have dropped by half. As it is, we see a 49% drop, basically overnight. I mean, not quite overnight, it's been a couple of days. But you get where I'm going with this. 49% down. In a couple of days, that is absolutely absurd. It's not the only one. The other one that's absolutely dropped here is Iron Leaves. It's gone from 5,000 yen to 2,600 yen, which is a 48% drop. So in the space of a few days, we've seen it drop. Again, if it was 2,500, that would be exactly half. As it is, this has gone down 48%. And I'm only cherry-picking the top 10 cards, yeah? The other day, I showed you the top 10 cards in terms of value. Here, I'm basically just looking at what's happened to those cards in the intervening period. There are plenty of other cards on this list that are probably going down this much. I'm just going for the real highlight ones here. Walking Wake and Iron Leaves, what do they have in common? They're not the best cards in the meta. And now Walking Wake is a very good card. It's got an ability which basically says it goes through anything. Its attacks aren't affected by any effects on your opponent's Pokemon. It's probably going to see play, but it's going down fast because it's just not good enough to quite sustain that, frankly. Now, in terms of the cards we looked at the other day, one of the smallest drops we've seen has been Raging Bolt. It went from 9,500 yen down to 7,000. That's a 28% drop. Now, again, to be clear, I'm telling you this is one of these smaller drops, and it's still a 28% drop. And my explanation for this is I do think this is a very good card. I do think this is one which is going to see a huge amount of play. Single energy, discard your hand, draw 6 is clearly very good. And then it's got the whole discard as much energy as you like from wherever you like. And then that's going to do 70 damage for each one discarded. It's really very, very good. And it is, if you look at results from Japan at the moment, with City Leagues having just started with these sets legal, it is there as a viable deck. It's not exactly some kind of amazing deck, but it is still a very good deck. Because another one which is actually not dropping as fast as you might expect is Iron Crown, which has dropped from 6,500 yen to 4,800 yen. That's a 26% drop. But again, if we look at what's happening over in Japan, if we look at these results, we see that actually Iron Crown with the new Miraidon is a very, very good deck. Miraidon's the one that for single energy does 40 damage and then accelerates 2 energy from your deck. But of course, Iron Crown's got the ability that says your future Pokemon do an extra 20 damage. So essentially here, Iron Crown means that you can be using Miraidon to be taking early prizes against evolving Pokemon or support Pokemon, etc. while accelerating energy, and then round and round we go. So yeah, it does make sense. And that's one of the things we're seeing here, that these cards that are playable over in Japan are actually weathering this a lot better than some of the others. Iron Crown and Raging Bolt absolutely playable, the drops are a lot smaller, whereas Walking Wake and Iron Leaves that are not quite so playable, not doing so well in Japan right now, they are dropping a lot faster. The other one that's holding on really quite nicely, again, in comparison to the rest of the set, is Morty's Confidence, which has only dropped from 8,000 yen down to 6,200 yen. That's a 23% drop. Which again, compared to the rest of the set, is a fairly small drop. And the deal here is really quite simple. This is an exceptional card. You'll notice that Bianca's Devotion only went down 32%, which is a lot less than the almost half many of these have dropped by. And the thing about Morty's Confidence is, it's not a particularly good card. It's discard a card from your hand, then draw a card for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It's fine, but it's one of those that can be played around fairly easily. Like, your opponent can control their bench. If this is like your main draw engine, your opponents can control their bench to try and hurt you. That's not ideal. But this isn't a card that's holding value because it's ridiculously playable or anything like that. This is a card that's holding value because it's Morty and Gengar. And Morty's fine, take it or leave it, right? But Gengar, oh yeah. People are big fans of Gengar, and that's basically the point here. This is one of those whereby, because Gengar's popular, people are going to want Gengar cards, and this might not be a Gengar card per se, but it essentially is. Like, if you're a Gengar collector, you want this card. This needs to be in your collection, and ergo, it's going to be there. And this is across the board. Like, they are just dropping all the way around across the board. Multi, literally the smallest drop in the top 10 at 23%. And I could keep going here. The Eri is dropped from 6,500 yen to 4,000. That's a 38% drop. Eri has a bunch of other Pokemon on the artwork, which is cool, but none of them are Gengar. And none of them are on the same level as Gengar, I think is also fair to say. So this is one of those ones where it's cool, don't get me wrong, but it's not exactly going to... Well, it's not exactly going to set everything on fire at this stage, is it? It's not that good of a card. For me, it's a little bit sad because Raging Bolt is hanging on so nicely and I want that card to get cheap so I can go and buy it. But at least a lot of the others are getting nice and cheap. I mean, the list has kind of settled down a little bit now, but essentially the only cards remaining higher than 4,000 yen are Bianca's Devotion, Raging Bolt, Morty's Confidence, and then Walking Wake and Iron Crown. They're the only cards above 4,000 yen. And 4,000 yen is less than the price of a box. The box is coming at like 5,500 yen. 4,000 yen, you're talking somewhere in the region of like $27. And there's only a few cards that are actually sitting there a little bit higher. So if you're a collector trying to make a load of money on the set, hope you pull the Bianca and then hope you sell it quickly. But for everybody else, this is genuinely wonderful news. We've got a set here which is just not holding much value at all. And that means that the boxes are going to end up being quite a bit cheaper. This is all lovely. Well, I will say Prime Catcher is still hanging on at 3,000 yen, which is still cheaper than it was the other day. Admittedly, it's only a $20 card now. But of course, Prime Catcher, you basically got a 1 in 3 chance in a box of Cyber Judge to get a Prime Catcher. But everybody who plays the game is going to need a Prime Catcher. So it's nice that it's fallen to like a $20 card, fallen by about a third. But I would love it if this one could fall a bit more because I want this card, frankly. Right, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you need to know. And now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about these cards. Tell me what your chases are. Tell me if you're surprised at quite how fast and furiously this has fallen. Go nuts in the comment section, would you? But be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Canto Royalty, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and seems to be a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.